I like it when people first come in the shed. They look at it. Everybody, Jimmy Dickens said his wife would buy the shed if I could leave everything in it. So she would just buy it all.
I see some things I need to work on my house with.
Well, all you got to do is come and get them. I got it here. I found the big thing about being able to, I got Brian Hieatt with me today, and we're going to share some things. But the big thing I find about stuff, if you can't get to it and don't know where it is, it ain't worth nothing, is it?
I guess that's true.
You know what I mean? You can have stuff, my Lord, and you're thinking, where is that? And I write on every box, okay?
Yep.
I mean, this one. And then I've started finding, of course, when I die, to make it easier for the kids to sell it, because they probably won't sell it. They'll just store it just like I did. But I take everything and try to put it all. I used to keep my motorcycle in here. That's what I bought it for. But then I sold my motorcycle, so I just built me a little bench and keep everything. And I'm not as organized as I usually am, but I like to have everything where I can get to it.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah, we have a lot of stuff stored in the attic and all, but I've told the kids that's going to be your problem one day. I'm not going up there and fooling with it now. You can fool with it down the road.
Let them have it.
Yep.
Well, that makes sense. I've got Brian here with me today. I've known Brian a long time, and I was thinking about how in life, Brian, that we can do so many things right, but only do one thing wrong, and everybody remembers you for the wrong.
That's true.
Isn't that something, how it works out like that?
That's true.
And for example, Brian, I've known for a long time, not personally, okay? But I shared with him this morning, my wife, it was real crazy about me interviewing Brian, okay? Because in 1993, I believe it was, he gave her a ticket. Now, my wife is not like me, okay? I'm peaceful and forgiving and caring and stuff like that, but women a little bit mean, okay? And she's still got a little mean streak.
She remembers the date.
Yeah.
She remembers
Well, not only that, I said something about it to my daughter today, my oldest daughter. She said, I remember we were on our way to school, and she jerked the ticket out of his hand and spun her tires and pulled out. See, she had no business doing that.
That doesn't sound like Miss Dash at all.
Yeah,
No.
that's exactly like that mean woman. But I mean, the thing about it, she remembers that. All the good you've done in your life, okay? I mean, all the protecting and serving and taking care of people and being good.
But I was the guy that gave that ticket.
That dad-burned ticket. She remembers that. I mean, that's beautiful, ain't it?
I will make it up to her somehow one day.
I know she is. But I was sharing today with a neighbor of mine up here. I stopped and was talking to her at her house for a minute, and she's talking about our donkeys. And my donkeys, I've got several donkeys out here, and they'll get to yelling sometimes. They'll bay just as big, and she's talking about how much she liked it. And I said, they don't holler unless you move something or change something. If you put a red bucket where a black bucket's been, they'll stand around it and holler about it. I told her, I said, they'll do that. They'll holler if you change something. They're a little mean. She said, yeah. And I said, because I believe they're all female. And she started pointing her finger at me then. She didn't like that.
You get yourself in trouble.
Yeah. Well, Brian, where did you grow up at?
I grew up right here in the town of Tazewell, actually just up the street from where we are recording right now. Right on Hill Street in the town of Tazewell.
That's pretty good.
Yep.
That's pretty good.
Right
the first house I bought was on Hill Street, out at the end, out there. I believe it was Fowler's that used to have it at one point, but I had looked all over. We'd rent it everywhere, and rent would be $50 cheaper, and we'd move. We'd move. But I found that house up on Hill Street, and I called all the banks and see if they had anything repossessed, and they had that house. And I bought it for $22,500. That's what I bought it for, and it's been several years ago. But I don't know. It's good to have your roots here in Tazewell, ain't it?
Yeah. Lived here all my life. I was probably that kid riding the bicycle by your house back many years ago.
The thing about Tazewell I find about it is, it's never drastically up and drastically down. That's just my thoughts and my thoughts of it all. It's on an even keel. Now stuff can be. I'm glad. I'll just tell you about this when we talk about Tazewell. I'm glad we don't have. I'll just say this, okay? And everybody, like the man who kissed a cow, everybody's got his own opinion. But I'm glad we don't have any colleges. I'm glad we don't have any great big job providers right in the middle of Tazewell, because everything else seems to go up with it. Crime, rent, taxes, okay? Now, those things, if I want to enjoy some of that stuff, I can get in my camper and go someplace where the cost of living's higher.
Right.
And then I can come back to Tazewell and live. okay? And when them guys were working on the power lines here, they said, can you buy any houses around here? You know, they like the area and stuff like that. But I mean, my thoughts are it's on an even keel, okay? And it seems to run like that.
I just met a man this morning who moved from California, San Diego, and has settled here in Tazewell. So I've never wanted to live anywhere but. And I know when I was younger, if you wanted to go to the state police, you had to move away. I just never wanted to move away from the area.
Well, you know, that's I don't know. That's part. Today I stopped a man in the parking lot out there, and I've been wanting to do this for a while. In 1977, I was on the fire department. And that's probably before you was born, wasn't it?
No, I was born. I was 7.
Okay, I was 7. In 1977, I was on the fire department. And I seen the guy out here at the Hardee's this morning when I was eating breakfast in the fire department truck. And I said, hey, what do I need to do to join the fire department? He told me all about it. So I'm going to the meeting tomorrow night at 6:30.
Okay.
And I said, now, can old people do this? He said, oh, yeah, you can do it. It seemed like they must be desperate for people. So I said, well, I'll come out there and just take a look and see if I can do that. I thought they'd be pretty. All my kids have called me Raising Cain, but I don't care what they say. It don't make no difference. They don't care what I say.
Well, that's okay.
So, I mean, you know, if they decide they want to get a tattoo across their forehead, they don't call me and ask me, hey, Dad, I'm getting ready to get a tattoo of I heart Mama. No, they don't call me.
Yep.
So I figure I'm not.
I found that out too. They don't call you. They just show you the tattoo later.
That's exactly. I don't know. I thought about getting. Somebody asked me about getting Janice's name tattooed on my arm, and I said I don't want to make that kind of commitment. I don't want to do it.
Needs a few more years.
That's exactly. 42 is not enough. And well, you know, I taught Davina in Sunday school, and she was just a little girl. It seemed like a little girl. She worked for me years ago, but she's a good girl, good lady. She just really has always been a quality person. And
she has taken care of me for years.
Yeah,
so.
And I think that's important.
And always stood by me. And, you know, being in an elected position is not an easy thing come election time.
Right.
And so, you know, it's something that the whole family has to do. It's not just me. The whole family has to be involved, and it affects all the children and everybody, daughter-in-laws and all. Yeah. And so she's always been good to be right there with me through all the campaigning and through my career.
She's just a quality person, okay? And you know, had a good interview with her, and everybody's liked it. I think over the 60 days here, it's the #1 interview we've got so far. Several of her interviews have been.
Great.
They've done really good. I think it's because of a lot of the radical things she said about you.
That could be. That could be. She could say a lot.
But anyway, so you grew up here in Tazewell. What are some memories you got as a boy growing up around here in Tazewell? What are some things that stand out in your mind?
Well, I know just like in this area right here, we leave, you know, I would leave on a Saturday with a friend, and we go walking up into the mountains here and hills, and we didn't have cell phones, and parents weren't able to call and say anything, so we would just say, we'll try to be home before dark. Right. But just being able to, we would walk all the way uptown, and we used to walk out on Mondays to the flea market.
Oh, man.
And everywhere, just things like that.
Yeah. I got something I want to work on. I'm going to try to do it this summer, called Do You Remember? And I'm going to go around to some places, even here in Tazewell, and say, do you remember? Like, you know, when we talk about where the stock market used to be, and where McDonald's used to be, I mean, when Food Line was back up in the other spot. I mean, there's all kinds of things that when you think about it, you can say, you know, do you remember when this was here? Do you remember when that was there? And because there's all kinds of stuff when you think far back as when Hex was out here.
I remember that, yeah.
I mean, Hex was out there.
And we had Dairydale down here at the end of the street.
Right.
Because I would walk back and forth to school, and I would save up about 3 days of lunch money and not eat lunch. Right. And then on that 4th day, I'd be able to go and buy a hamburger at Dairydale after school. Right.
That lady that used to work there, I can't remember her name. She was so nice. And she worked there and worked at the one over toward War over there too. One he had another one over that way.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
But she was nice. Just back, you know, I remember her too back then growing up. So you think about stuff when you was a boy, being able just to take off and go walking.
Yeah, yeah.
And wasn't that something?
Go riding bikes up through the neighborhoods, and nobody would call and check on you, or.
Man, but how come it's, you know, if my grandson did that, Lord, my daughter would be calling y'all. She'd have to put a chip in him to track him. I mean, you know, but we would leave out with a hatchet. and go to the mountains all day, you know, and cut trees and do things. And and how come that's
changed? Go out with BB guns and into the woods. And
how come it's changed?
I think we see so much on the news and so many things that can happen to children and teenagers that you want to make sure yours okay. And not that those things didn't happen all those years ago, but you didn't hear much about it. There wasn't as social media and things like there is now. So it was just a more trusting time.
So you think the times may not have changed as much as we hear more about it?
Right, we hear more about it.
Isn't that something?
You know, children were kidnapped, things were done. Yeah. You know, there's years ago we just didn't hear as much about it like we do now.
Right. Okay, let me ask you this. And we're talking several different subjects, okay? I've got some notes, but I think about things. Kidnapping, okay? You see a lot of women get kidnapped, young girls. This happens in the world we live in.
It does.
There's a common thread. Now, I'm real big on common threads, okay? Now, I know you're not supposed to drive a red sports car because you guys see it, right? That's a common thread. You act like you don't, all right? But I know you see that red car, you think, especially toward the end of the month. My mother-in-law said, y'all always have to get them at the end of the month. But anyway, there's a common thread. You see them usually when they get kidnapped or coming out of a bar, drunk, with 4 guys. You know what I mean? And then they say, do you know that Susie, like this, we got one over in the Caribbean right now, you know, where the girl's drowned, but she was drunk, coming out with these guys out of the bar. I've never seen them kidnapped coming out of Sunday school.
Right.
Okay?
And not saying that doesn't happen at some points in times, but I see what you're saying, that a lot of times it's being in that wrong place.
Yeah.
Like I said, you know, sometimes there's a kidnapping right in front of someone's house.
Right.
You know, the girl may be right outside. So there are times that it does happen different, but I certainly see what you're saying.
I see a lot of stuff happen. You know, I try to look at the common threads. You know, I try to look at stuff and say, you know, when I see things that happen, I'm real big on odds, okay? I mean, the one reason there isn't a new Harley Davidson sitting in this building, because I've been riding since I was 6 and never had a bad wreck.
Right.
Okay, and I'm 65. And I got to thinking, you know, the odds are really not for me right now because I don't move as fast as I used to.
Not wanting to take that risk.
I thought, you know, I'm just going to ride the boat. I don't think I'll fall off it. I don't think there's much chance of me falling over. But if I do, I'll wear a life jacket. But I mean... And
you talk about those risks, you know, being in a place where someone could spike your drink and put something in it, and because you see that happening. Yeah.
Put yourself in, you know, you just got to be careful. Janice was talking about one time when they went on a cruise, her and some of her friends years ago, and she said I think somebody was trying to traffic us because these guys kept asking us, telling us about this party down the street if we wanted to know if we wanted to go someplace else. And she said, I told them no, that this was where the cruise, and she said, now they get to thinking back. But I think it's you just really do have to be careful. You don't want to leave your life in fear, but you want to be careful.
Be careful, take safety first. Davina was out of town for work one time, staying at a hotel, and she got a call, and they said, you know, we're coming up to fix the toilet in there. It's been leaking. We're fixing it, and so we'll be up there in a minute. She hangs up, calls the front desk. And they said, no, we don't have anybody come up there to fix anything. So someone had called from outside, saw what room she'd went in and called that room and said that. So the front desk guy came, they switched her rooms and everything. But, you know, who knows what happened if she wouldn't have called and then a knock on the door that she thought was coming in to fix something.
Right. And there's a thin line. You got to be careful not living your life in fear.
Right.
Okay? And, you know, I've went as far as now, you know, when we travel, you know, I used to keep my pistol up front, okay? But I got a little worried about it. I got to thinking about it, so now I just got some real good mace I keep up front. Because I got to thinking about shooting somebody and it all being over that quick. And I got to think, now, you know, if worst thing comes to worst, it'd be different. But I got to thinking about that. I thought, gosh, I'd hate to shoot somebody and kill them. If I could blind them and drive off.
And get away.
You know, and get away. And I think, gosh.
Yeah, I believe people should defend themselves.
Yeah.
And we teach concealed weapons class, and one thing that we teach in there is one thing you got to remember when you shoot, where all is that bullet going to go?
Right.
You know, look at your surroundings. You know, is it going to shoot the person you're aiming at and then hit someone else, go into somebody's house?
Yeah.
So always being careful to see this. So there are risks.
Yeah. Well, I've often thought about that. I keep a .357 beside the bed, but I thought if I shot it, hit somebody, I would go plumb up the street. You know what I mean? You know, if I got
that bullet's got
I got
somewhere.
thinking about that. You know, you think about those things.
Right.
But I really just got to thinking about it, so that's why I did move my mace up front. Just when I'm right now at night, I keep it, you know, beside the bed. But I got thinking about it. I said, "Gosh, I don't know, man. You know, in a moment, you can make a decision, and you know, we can just go on." It's forever.
Now, when I was a young officer, I didn't, you know, come home from work, take the uniform off, gun belt off. I didn't carry a gun with me in the evenings or going out with friends or going out on a date. Just wasn't some thought about. But you know, as years go by, you see more danger out there. So I'm never anywhere without a gun because we see things that happen in grocery stores, Walmart.
Right.
You go to the movies. There's things we've seen shootings at movie theaters and things. So so now you know any officer you see will always have that weapon on them, just because you don't want something to happen and you be there as a sworn officer and say, well, I just didn't have a gun.
Yeah.
But I can remember, you know, early on not worrying about going to the store and having to have a gun on me.
Yeah. You know, I'm a licensed armed security guard. I took the whole classes for all those things and stuff like that. And I got some guys been wanting me to do some work for him and some escorting and do some things. But it's very interesting to take the classes and to learn what I've learned. And worst thing I'd done is I had a brand new 9mm that I had took my test with. First thing you know, it eat me up. Okay, in my handcuff.
Right.
You know, eat me up, and it was a new gun, which that was more aggravating than anything. I really wish I would have took it with a .38. I like a .38. I just somehow I feel confident in that revolver. I feel like it's going to go off. You know what I mean? And I know that you not need more bullets if you know with a 9mm and extra clip. But I get to thinking about that, and my son and my daughter-in-law bought me one of those little short shotguns. Okay, they bought me one of those. And I've never shot it yet. I've had it a couple years. And but I had she wanted to get me the 20 gauge, and I told her I wasn't no girl. I wanted the 12 gauge, which they laughed at me for that. But I haven't shot it yet. I'm going to shoot it when they're not around. I don't want them to laugh at me.
You need to shoot. When we teach our concealed weapons class, a lot of times we'll have people who've had guns, but have had a gun that's never went out and shot.
Right.
So you don't want your first time of shooting it to be in an emergency and you having to defend yourself. So we'll take anybody that wants to out to the range, and we have firearms instructors that will work with them to shoot and everything.
Good. I think that's real good, you know, to do that thing, shoot. I mean, I think I've got some ants in here. I've never had no ants. I'm going to put the bombs off today, okay? I will get them springs out. They're all ready. But, you know, all right, so growing up, you grew up here in Tazewell. Where did you work early on in your life? What were some of the first jobs?
When I was in high school, there was a pizza place down at the bottom of the hill there that's not there, and they're called Pizza Haven. It was down at the bottom of Gap Avenue, right beside where Old Virginia Pharmacy is. So I worked there.
I don't remember it.
It was there for a few years, when I was in high school. So I worked there for a while. We had Acme Supermarkets. I worked there.
Okay.
And I worked at Pizza Hut for a few years, finishing up high school until I got a job with the police department.
That's pretty good.
So I started with the town police department when I was 19.
Man, well, you got a good head start in. My Lord. That's a long time.
Took night classes and worked at the police department.
Well, when we talk about being there that long, what are some of the keys you have toward just, and I don't even like to use the word burnout, but what keeps you from being tired of doing law enforcement?
And I see people that get burnt out and get tired, but you're seeing bad here and bad there, and people upset with you for no matter what choice that you make and everything.
Right.
But it's a job that I've always loved, and there are hard times with it. But I don't know, it's something I've always loved doing.
Well, that's important.
About the burnout, but I have seen where people get frustrated and it's hard.
Yeah. Well, I think anything that goes against your character, okay? Because I think there's a part of us that I think we learn to control the rascal we are sometimes, okay? The Bible talks about bridling your tongue, but I think we have to get a hold of what we are. And I think mean little girls make mean old women. Mean little boys make mean old men, okay? But if you've got a heart for something and that's part of your character and what's inside of you, then that's a whole different world. You can step on into that, can't you?
I can, and you know what I always told our sons, you know, you've got to do something that you enjoy doing. You've got to make a living, but you know more important than money is doing something that you enjoy.
Right.
Which, and I don't know if anybody gets in law enforcement to make the $1 million and have a yacht. It's because it's something that they enjoy doing.
Right.
It's just a hard career in today's time to have.
Yes, sir. Well, it would be, and it seems like it fluctuates, you know, and it begins to fluctuate. There's different things and different times, and you sort of, I guess, you enjoy it different, and there's a pride in being able to help people when you can actually help people.
Yes, it is.
And but when you're seeing people at their worst, sometimes it's hard too. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I know I've had several friends of mine that have been at their worst, and it seemed like they, I don't know. Sometimes they never did do different.
And it's hard when you're a police officer and have kids, and your kids have friends. I'm going over to a friend's house, you're like, who's your friend's dad? Who's the mom? Oh, it's hard.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And you also don't want someone to take out something on your child because they're mad at you because you charged them or arrested them or something like that. And so that worries you when you have young children.
Yes, I can see where that would. Absolutely would. I mean, you know, I pastored for a lot of years, and being a pastor, you had to work with always had to work with my kids and make sure, because they've seen people, what they run into a lot is my kids would do. They would see people that would come to church talking about how much they loved me, loved my family, loved us all, and then would leave. And it was hard for them.
Right.
Because I'd have to try to explain to them, these are just people, and there's things that people go through, and sometimes people, for a moment, they're this way, and then they change, and they're not. Right. It's just different, okay? And when you're in different positions, you got to be able to talk to your family about that. It's not easy.
Yeah, that's what I said. Just being in the elected position was something I set everybody down together and said, you know, this is something that affects the whole family, something we all have to go, you know, and I wanted to talk to them and see what they thought about it before I stepped into that campaign. Yeah,
I think it's good. And listen, man, you've done a good job. I think you have, and if you haven't, I don't know.
I appreciate it.
Okay, I mean, I think you've done a good job, and I know that it's not easy, and most people like you as long as you do what they want. Right. That's just our nature, ain't it? Yeah. I mean, it's just the way we are.
And in a position like that, if you're not doing a good job, the people will not reelect you. So I mean, that's who I work for, is all the citizens throughout the county.
Yeah. And it's a big job to do, okay? Because you can't. There's no way you can make everybody happy.
No, not at all. But we just work hard, try our best, and you know, we've done a lot of good things with the sheriff's office. And
well, what are some things when you think about the sheriff's office? What have you seen get better about it? What do you think?
You know, things we've put in through the years. We've got our internet crimes, our ICAC division, which comes down to Bedford County, but it's a program where we're able to seek out if somebody's downloading and looking at child pornography, to be able to scam phones and things. And we've made several arrests using that system that we've been able to get. Man. So just what we've been able to add in technology with things like that. We've expanded what we do in their schools. You know, back years ago, school resource officers were just in the high schools. That was their focus. You know, problems in high school, we need officers there. But now we've seen that shootings can happen at elementary schools, middle schools, and so now you see in this county between us and some of the towns that there's an officer in every elementary, middle school, high school, career and technical center. So we've expanded and added on to what we do in the schools. Yeah,
well, that's a big thing. What about when we talk about officer training? What have you seen grow? Have you seen things happen and change?
We have, and now just the police academy itself is longer than what it was when I went through and when other people through, because there's so many things that they put in there. And we're lucky enough we have a lot of instructors and things that we do a lot of in-house training. You know, a lot of the laws and things with domestic violence and all are always changing, and so we do a lot of training with that. But training is one of the keys to being successful.
Okay. All right, I'm going to ask you something. Oh, was it Dave Burnett?
Yeah, he's just coming to check us out.
I'm going to tell you something. I've had a time. Good thing I don't have my pistol out here. I'll be shooting all around the building. If you want to shoot one, you hit it. I got my bow and arrow up there.
I see it, yeah.
But I think about, all right, so when we talk about something that's me and my family argue about a lot. We have, my mom and I argue, my wife and I argue about this. And just when we see these people, when we see now when we talk about recording, you and I talked about it, there's important that we have body cams now, police officers, okay? And because the public is recording all the time, okay? And everybody now, man, they're on you with everything, okay? And so what has changed about that?
And I remember years ago, you didn't have any type of recording, and then we started seeing dash cams that, and the microphone was on the officer, so you saw something there, to now body cameras, so that you're seeing that. And I know, just being in police work, a lot of young officers get nervous because they're worried about somebody filming them and somebody this. But I tell them, just do your job. It doesn't matter who's filming, who's watching. If you're doing your job and making the best decision you can, you're fine. And with body cameras, there's also, remember, it looks straight forward. So a lot of times you can't see if you're coming at me at the side, that's not being picked up, things like that. But still, it's been a very useful tool. And most officers now, they're happy to have them because if there's a complaint, if there's something that's being accused, you've got it right there on body camera. So we can see everything that goes on. Plus, it also helps with training. And to go back, we can go back and look at the situation and sit down with an officer and say, well, you see what you did here. You probably could have done it a different way if you watch this and see how this fight happened, or how you made the decision to do this. So it's a good training tool to be able to go back and me and anyone else, when you go back and look at something that you did, you're able to see things you might would have done different.
Well, do you think too people recording things, okay? There's people that record things now a lot. And let's talk. I wonder sometimes, and I don't mean this in any disrespect, okay? But because I don't want every police officer to get me after a while, okay? But I think there has to be enough training there to where those officers know what people's rights are and how to really be careful with it. Because I think what happens is everything's got to stay. And I know it would be easy. There's a reason. My daddy told me, he said, son, if you had an education, you'd either be a lawyer or you'd be in prison. There's or outlaw, he said, or a bank robber. But I think there's such a thing there. People have to be confident. And sometimes I know it's pushed too far, and I watch things. But, we want to make sure everybody's on the same playing field, okay? And I've always seems to me like that courtesy. If people just will be courteous,
it goes
okay?
a long way.
Be courteous. It's when growing up, I had a friend of mine that was a police officer, okay? And he was not a good police officer, okay? He was pretty bad, okay? And he was pretty dangerous, okay? He was my friend, because I wanted him my friend, okay? But he wasn't real. If he was on your side, he was on your side. But I know of a lot of things he did that weren't good. Okay? So what I mean is, I know it could be so easy when you're seeing people at their worst all the time. And you're facing this. It would be easy to say, I'm going to slap you. Okay? So, the challenge, it seems like to me, would be to have officers, because people are people. We're all just people. And to have them stay on that even keel, and to be able to really de-escalate. Does that make sense?
And there's special training that they offer that we go to de-escalation techniques, because it is hard when you go in a situation and someone's all of us, just right off the bat yelling at you and upset at you. So there is that training we go to help de-escalate the situation, and you can't let that person just get you angry, because number one, if you're having an emergency, something's happened to you, you're upset. And I need to understand, you're going to be upset. You're probably going to speak in a loud voice just because of the situation, not against me. I don't need to take it personally against me when I come in and try to help with the situation.
I agree with you. I think that, because here's what happens is, if it's my situation, I'm the most important thing in the world to me. You've got 15 other cases to deal with today. But my case and my situation, it's like if your water bill's too high and you call the water department. You don't care about anybody else's water bill. It's your bill. The most important thing to you is your stuff. And I think that's what, it seems like the challenge would be, as law enforcement, is to be able to de-escalate. Okay?
It is.
It's to de-escalate.
And one thing, anytime I hire somebody, one of the things that I say to them is, when you're out here working and you're dealing with people, I want you to think, how would you want your family for an officer to deal with your family.
Right.
If it was your grandmother, if it was your mother, if it was your wife, your brother, your sister, how would you want? And you know, it may be a busted mailbox, and in your mind you think, I tell the officer, you may think, well, you know, you've got bigger things and other things, but to that lady there, that is the worst thing that's probably ever happened to her.
Yeah.
What if it was your mother? Would you want the officer to take their time, do a report, you know, be there for the person? If you have a victim of a crime, you need to call back, check in with them. What if it was your sister? Wouldn't you want the officer to check in, check on her? I said, treat the citizens out there the way you would want an officer to treat your family.
Right. And I think what have to is the big thing is to slow down, take a breath, okay, and to de-escalate and be able to do those things. And I mean, you know, I had a guy one time that approached me, and he was a little upset at me. I felt like falsely, but I mean, it didn't matter to him. And he began to explain to me that he was going to whip me. He said, you know, I'm going to whip you. And he said, when I see you, I'm going to whip you. I said, well, you might. I said, but what I need you to do is to catch me after Sunday school on a Sunday morning. I feel pretty good about myself. I feel like I turned the other cheek. You know what I mean? Because there's times in your day and your week, and I know you have to be like that all the time.
Yep.
But there's times I feel like I'm up, and times I feel like I'm not as up as I need. I share with people, I said I've not always been as close to the cross, but I could always see it from where I was. So what I mean is, and I told him, I said, you might ought to catch me when I come out of Sunday school, because I feel like I'll be a better person. Don't catch me on Saturday night at a horse show or something like that.
Yep.
Because to de-escalate and to keep things calm is a hard thing to do sometimes.
It is.
In a nervous situation where adrenaline is pumping.
And that's from you have someone who you spot is a suspended driver. You go to pull them over. They run from you, and so you're chasing them. Adrenaline's going, things going. Car finally stops. The officer jumps out. You know, he's got all that adrenaline. So it is important that they're trained to, you know, calm down.
Yeah.
Don't let that adrenaline get the best of you.
I tell you, one of the cool things I think you guys got, those dad-burn shotguns that shoot those beanbags. That I would love to have one of those. I mean, that's what I see. I see you guys use those, and I've always thought if we could use less lethal,
less than lethal. Yeah. And we carry tasers,
right?
So that's a less lethal, and that it will stop a person, and it lasts for just 5 seconds, and then that's enough time for you to handcuff, and it's over with.
Man, when they shoot them with them daggone beanbags, whew, I like those.
Yep.
I'd like to have one of those around the house. Just sort of get the kids. Right. I had my son-in-law one time pinned down in the yard. I've got a Red Ryder BB gun, and I really like it. And I'm good with it, too. I can shoot it. I can see that BB come out and shoot it. But I had him pinned down in the yard out here one day with it where I wouldn't let him get by. I love that kind of thing. But I think those doggone beanbag guns, because, you know, you think sometimes, but I know there's times, like you said, the adrenaline's pumping.
Right.
And you guys are in a deadly situation where you could be killed by a ding-dong, okay? And you could be killed by somebody, not go home to see your family. Right. And all that stuff's got to be going through your head, man. Yeah.
And those are things that you can't say, well, that happens in a big city, that happens in other places. When we see it, you know, right here and the rural area we live in, you look at the officer, the deputy in Smith County, that was shot killed on a traffic stop.
Yeah.
And it was after the traffic stop was even over. Tickets had been issued. Everything was over, going back to the car, you know, getting ready to go back to the car.
Yeah.
So you can't say, well, you know, it's just dangerous in other places.
Yeah.
We have to be prepared. It could be right here.
It's right here, man. Well, let's talk. I know we're covering way more law enforcement than I want to. I want to talk more about you, Barry. But let's think about this. When we talk about drugs in our area, I mean, what's going on? What is there that's happening?
And you know, one thing I'll say, you know, sometimes people will say, oh, well, drugs are so bad in Tazewell County. They're so bad here. It's something from one end of our country to the other. There's not a spot you can put your finger on and say, oh, well, that place has no drugs, no drug problems, nothing.
Right.
You know, it's something that has gripped our whole nation.
Right.
And you know, we combat it in trying to stop the flow of drugs, catch the people with drugs, but then we also have things like drug court and things we try to do to help people help stop that addiction.
Right.
Or overcome the addiction.
You know,
so you have to hit it both ways. It can't be just arrest.
Yeah, you got to get the other end of it a little bit. You got to sort of get it before it happens. You know, and I'm going to tell you something. I've got friends and people that around me that I know that have trouble with drugs, okay? and I mean, some of them don't have hardly a tooth left in their head. Between the oxy and some of these other things, I'm not quite sure what they're fooling with. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on out there.
Yeah.
And I watch a lot of documentaries, okay? I get most of my education from YouTube. My medical information I get from TikTok, but my other part I get from YouTube. But I mean, I've been watching this on Kush. Have you heard of it?
No.
Kush is really big in Africa. And what they do, they showed there was thousands of these people addicted to, it's called Kush. They roll it up and they smoke it, and it has these chemicals in it. It's this leafy, they spray with these chemicals and let it dry. And then they actually showed them going into graveyards and getting bones. And they grind up the bones and put them in with this, and they smoke it. Because it has the, where they embalm people, still has those chemicals in it. But they showed these people just, I mean, in Africa, it's just unreal what's happening to these people. And the Bible talks about there being many worlds among us. And I know people that get on these things, and I have enough trouble not with sugar, okay, much less with if I was on oxy, okay. But I mean, if I not eating too many cookies is a big thing for me. So I mean, and I'm not sure if that ain't probably real as bad for you, with me especially. But I mean, I'm thinking about it in people's lives when this thing gets a hold of them. And I've had friends. I had a family member that ended up dying. His heart just died. But when he was on, he said pills are the first thing. He said, I don't want to hurt. He had his knees and back and hips, and he had his knees replaced in coal mines and stuff. But he said, that pain's the first thing I think of in the morning and the last thing I think of at night. He said, I don't want to hurt.
Right.
I don't want to hurt. And I know that it seems like when they... And I talked to a guy yesterday sitting at the kitchen table, talking to him about when he used to be on oxy. And he said, I was 3 weeks getting off of it. He said, thought I was going to die. He said, I just lay in the bed and think I was going to die trying to get off it. So I know it's hard.
And then that craving's still there.
Yeah, I know it's got to be hard, man.
It's hard. And we've seen a lot of success stories, so
Right.
it can be done, but it is very difficult.
Yeah.
And then we see people that end up stumbling and
Right.
falling back into the addiction.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I said, I have enough trouble trying to quit drinking Pepsis. I mean, I don't know if you ever have any problems, stuff like that, but I have
Little
challenges.
Debbie's.
Oh, man, I don't even talk about that. I don't even think about or the Chips Ahoy cookies or them chocolate donuts. Ooh, baby. But, I mean, I think about things in our life. I think about how hard it's got to be, man. It's heartbreaking for me. When I think of it, it just breaks my heart. I think about it.
It is. And I talked to a man who's in jail right now. I talked to him the other day. I went to high school with him, and he's had a battle with drugs and addiction, and he's looking at trying to get out on a bond, but he says, I can't go back to the neighborhood where I've been, where I grew up. He said, I've got to be somewhere else because I'll just keep falling in and keep falling in.
Yeah. Well, I had a guy that I knew, went to school with, just got out of jail, I believe, yesterday or day before yesterday. Been in for 10 years. I'm sure he was on some things, but got a gun out and shot over a girl, shot through a house trailer. Okay, went to jail. 10 years. I mean, that fast.
Yeah.
Tough guy, thinking he's tough. This guy was tough, okay?
Yeah.
But that fast, something like that, 10 years.
Yeah.
And, man alive, in a moment.
In a moment, yeah.
In a moment. But the drugs, man, when it just, I don't know. It's heartbreaking.
And when people are under the influence, they'll do things that normally they wouldn't do, or wouldn't even think about doing. And that's a lot of the crime and things we see with theft or breaking and enterings, fights, domestics, is because there's some type of drug involved.
Yeah. And just sort of you lose your mind. People, I mean, gosh,
Yeah.
My cousin and I have talked a lot about it, how just those things in a little minute, that thing you can do. That's how, like I said, when I talked about moving my pistol from the front in my camper beside of me to the back, because I got to thinking about, man, if I could, I felt like I'm confident enough I could mace somebody and get away versus killing them and leave them laying there dying. And I don't know, I just think about stuff like that. And those decisions you make in a second. how quickly they can affect you forever.
Do you?
Yeah, forever.
So that bullet's always going somewhere.
Yeah, it really is. Well, all right. We have really discussed all the law enforcement. We're going to try to stay away from it for just a little while, okay? What makes a happy marriage, Brian?
I think what makes a happy marriage is knowing that you don't have to have exactly the same interest and do exactly the same thing all the time. That you've got space. There's things I'm interested in, things she's interested in. You don't have to be attached at the hip and do the same thing all the time.
Makes a lot of sense.
I didn't know you was going to ask that, but that's just off the top of my head.
It makes a lot of sense. You know what I mean?
You care about that other person and give them the space and to be involved in an activity or something they want to do.
Right.
That you don't have to be, right there.
I find my wife does that to me all the time. She'll let me go play, she calls it. Go do whatever I want you to. I want you to go do that. You go do this, and you go enjoy that, or you go do that. And I think that's important. I tell her all the time, I say, honey, if you decide you want to bake pies for the state fair, I'll follow you. You know what I mean? It doesn't. It doesn't. And I'm of the nature of this. I've heard people talk about all this 50-50 stuff. I've never thought it was like that. I've always thought I want to serve my wife. I want to be there for her.
Right.
I want to make sure she's happy first. I want her to be happy, and then I'll be happy. And but that's important. And like you're saying,
it is important. And like I said, she's always supported my career, and from chief of police to sheriff, campaign, and it's important that I support her career choices and changing careers and things.
Right. Yeah, I think it is. I think it's important. Well, tell me this: if you had to tomorrow, what do you do? And I'm not talking about family or church or I love Jesus. I mean, what do you do if you want to do something that just makes you happy? If Brian does something.
I'm a big movie buff.
Okay.
And when I want to just relax, I like watching a movie. I like going to the movies and watching a movie.
Right.
And she's never been a big movie-going person.
Right.
But my two of the three children were, and so we'd get out and just watch a movie, turn the phone down, and just just watch a movie. That's my. I know some people like fishing or hunting to get out in the woods, and you've got that peace and all. Mine is just going and watching a movie.
I think it's great. I'm not a sportsman. Okay, I've got some really good friends that are tremendous. I mean, my buddy Charlie Absher can go to the mountains for 2 weeks by himself. I mean, you'd never see me again. You know what I mean? I'd go crazy. I can't.
And see, I can't fish because I'm too. I want to catch something immediately, so I throw the line in. And I throw it in and throw it in.
Right.
And my chief deputy, he's a big fisherman. Loves he relaxes, goes out there for hours, fishing. I just can't do that. I gotta. So, but I can just sit back and relax and watch a movie. Yeah.
Charlie, he's going. I've been fishing twice in my life. Once I was 6, and once a few years ago. Last time I just dumped the worms in because I thought they're getting them off the hook anyway. But he's going to take me. He's got me. I got a fishing pole in here somewhere. He got me a fishing pole and a little tackle box. He's got me already set up. Because he said, I told him he's going to take me again this summer. I said, I want to go fishing. I don't want to get no kayak because I'm too big for that. But I said, we'll do it from the bank. And I'm going to go, I'm going to try to go again and go fishing, do that one more time. I want to do that. I enjoy stuff that, I worked all day today outside just trimming on fences and cutting wood and making this work and doing that. And I enjoy coming in the shed and organizing my boxes and organizing my tools and straightening up my, I like stuff like that, just different things that you enjoy. Yeah. And I believe that makes it colorful, don't it, in our life?
It does.
We like different stuff.
And I actually, when the boys were little, I started making a list. So I've got a list of every movie we've ever seen. I've got 3 different lists. One of them's real short because he don't like movies, but the other 2, but I've got a list of every movie we've ever seen. But then through the years, things started happening, like girlfriends and jobs, and so it slowed way down. Yeah. I lost them to, I told my son one time, I said, you'd rather spend the evening with your cheerleader high school girlfriend than me?
I mean, that don't make sense, does it?
And he did.
Yeah. All your kids out of the house now?
Yeah. Yep, all of them are at the house.
But you still got the big house?
I still got the house, yeah.
I mean,
And we mentioned trying to go to a smaller house the other day, and the children were freaking out because that's the home they grew up in. But we said, listen, we're going to have to make a change.
What you need to do is like mine, ask them which one of them wants to buy it. See if you really love
and
it.
we've got a big giant backyard, and my plan was having 3 sons Then they get older. One can be on the riding mower.
Yeah.
One can be doing the push mowing
Right.
the banks. One can be weed eating.
Yeah.
That never worked out.
No.
Never worked out. But so we told them, we said, we still have all this yard and all this y'all going on. You're busy.
Yeah.
You don't have time to come and help us. So we're going to have to make a change here in the future.
Best thing we ever done was move out of we gave my daughter, we had the big house, and we moved in this 850 square foot house. Best thing I've ever done in my life. It's so that, and I took it had 3 bedrooms. Okay, so I took one bedroom, turned it into a little office, and then we had 1 bedroom. Then I took the other bedroom and turned it into nothing but a closet, big walk-in closet. And I put my washer and dryer in the closet.
There you go. Yeah.
Smartest thing I've ever did.
Well, our youngest son said we were making irrational decisions. He said, "You're not thinking straight." We said, "Son, listen, we can't, there's all these rooms in the house that aren't used.
Right.
We come home, we're sitting down here watching TV.
Yeah.
You all aren't here. There's all this yard that we're just going to have to keep mowing and mowing and mowing." So you're just not thinking straight. I can't believe you're even thinking about this.
Well, my daughter done me like that, and I said, "Would you just like the house?" So we just let her have that house. But
See, that's an idea.
The best thing I ever done, my front porch is almost as big as my house. But we live out there all summer. We live on the front. We got table and chairs and swings and everything. We stay outside. And then I've only done a few things in my life I'm really proud of. I bought a 6-foot porch swing. They're not all that big. They're 5.5 feet. You can't lay down. Your head's all curled up. I went to Ohio in the Amish country and bought me a 6-foot porch swing and brought it home and got a memory foam custom made thing for it. Oh, man.
And that's what we do. We love sitting on the front porch, and we've got hammocks we sit in. And so we've got this big giant backyard and a back deck. We're just never really out there. We sit on the front, watch traffic, and be out there. So we're just 4 hours of mowing, taking care of a yard that was good when the children were small and using it and all, but just
well, one thing I did, though, is my daughter-in-law does all the mowing. Okay, I've got a little tiny daughter-in-law that's a mowing machine. Okay, she does all the mowing, keeps all of it up. But one thing I did with my house is I bought it, it's paid for. Then what I done was I got a hold of the attorney, went up here to the courthouse and filled out the deed and gave it to my son. I said, "Now this is yours." Because it's right here next to him anyway. We all live within sight of each other. But I said, this way, I said, it's your house, you take care of it. It belongs to you from now on. I just let him have it, And we stay in the camper most time anyway on the road.
Right.
But I mean, when things start to change. Life is about seasons. And you got to recognize them season changes, don't you?
I told my son, I said, "Well, you know why you're not here and living in this house with us? Because things change.
Exactly.
You went to college, you know, that's why things change." He's still having a very hard time with it. So,
well, I think that you gotta break it news to them, man. You gotta break it across to them. It's not easy to do.
She said they're not going to be happy. I said, "Oh no, I'll tell them." She was right. They were not happy, but things do change.
They really do. Seasons, I think, are important to recognize seasons in life. All right, so we've covered some things. All right, what about health-wise? How are you? Are you healthy?
I'm healthy. I'm good.
Good.
Yep.
Everything going all right?
Yep. Everything's going good. I had some surgery on my foot a few months ago. Was on crutches for a little while.
Tell me about that.
But yeah, healed up
Good,
fine.
good.
I could not stand being on those crutches.
I can imagine, man. Well, I tell you, your job, you got to be healthy.
Yeah.
Okay, and you got to take care of yourself. You really have to work on that.
What's going on?
Yeah.
I had those crutches, and my wife said, "You need to get a knee scooter so you can scoot around at work." I said, "I'm not going down the hallway of the sheriff's office in uniform, scooting around."
Right.
Because I could see those off. They put a little bell on it for me.
Yeah.
So I just dealt with the crutches.
That would be the video that would last forever.
Yes, it would.
It would.
So yeah, but no, healthy. Everything's fine.
It's good, man. I think that's really good. And how old are you now?
54.
54. Well, that's young. That's good.
I don't know. I don't feel it sometimes. One of the officers, I was talking to him the other day, and I said, "Well, I saw on Facebook it was somebody's birthday." Who's what? He said it was my mom's. So I said, "Okay." He said, "Yeah, she just turned 50." I went, "I'm older than your mother." I said, "Okay." So, all these young officers.
Oh man, well, when I think about Davina, it makes me feel old. I think about it, but I remember when she was just a little girl. I think about all that kind of stuff. Shucks. But life moves on, don't it, buddy?
Yep, it
does.
It
really does. And well, I tell you, I appreciate you coming by. I mean, it's a blessing.
I appreciate you asking
I've known
me.
you for a long time, and I really respect you, and I respect what you do. I know it's a big job, man, and I know that shoot, because I break the law. I mean, I got the police officer chased me the other day to the Y. I stop normally. Okay, I really do stop a good 80% of the time. Okay, all right. I pulled right up that sign, hit me a little slow stop, went on right-handed, and here he come. I said, oh, man. So I just pulled on up in there and waited on him, till he come up there. And I told him, I said, I'm doing better than I did before. I said, that's what they said with my wife when my wife and my mother got pulled over a while back. They pulled her over several times for speeding over at war. And she said, now, you'll have to admit I am doing better. Officer said, yes, Miss, you are doing better. Okay, you just need to do a little bit better.
Yep.
So, I mean, there's things, it's a tough job.
When Davina was here, did she ever mention getting pulled over?
No.
Yeah, she's been pulled. She can spot those blue lights now. Now she can spot them a mile away. Yeah.
Yeah. No, she didn't admit any faults or anything.
She has none.
No.
No faults.
She never really. She seems pretty solid about not being able to get by with admitting no faults. I appreciated her. She was a blessing. She always has been. She is.
We were in church the other day, and the minister said, we've all made mistakes. Said, if you've never made a mistake, stand up. And I looked at my son. I said, where's your mother? She's standing up back there. Where'd she go? She's standing. She didn't think that was funny that I said that.
Oh, sure. It's a lot of things we just need to keep to ourselves.
That's right.
Yeah, it really does. I think about it. And I enjoy, my wife and I get along good. We just don't, we don't, not a bunch of fuss and fighting. Because I couldn't imagine being hateful and mean to you. Right. And why would I be mean to her,
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of people that just, are hateful turned. And I don't want to be rude and hateful.
And we through the years, never really fought or anything. We disagreed. And, you've known her long enough. If there's something on her mind, she just tells you. And that's a good way to be. And so we just never fight. If we get upset or something, we just say, this is what's upset me.
Yeah, it's good. It really is. Well, let me ask you something. Are you worth anything around the house? I mean, do you pick up after yourself?
I do. I've never thought, because she mows and does a lot. So so it's everything. It's not that I do the yard work and she does all the laundry and all. I wash and put on my laundry and we'll take turns cooking and when it comes to mowing, she'll hop out there and start mowing away. And so we're, painting. When we have a project to work on, she's out there painting and helping staining decks and everything.
Right.
So
Good.
So we share about all that.
Good. I used to not be. I'm better than I used to not be messy or anything, but I mean, I really try now to make sure, I never leave out a can or a glass, or I try to make sure I pick up anything, and I don't want to leave anything, for her, and try to make life as easy on my wife as possible. I'm a little bit late probably to learn all that, okay, but I guess better late than never.
I figure she can take out the trash and mow and stuff like that. Like I can help out with anything inside.
Right. I've just started in the last couple of years taking out the trash. I never took out the trash. I could step over it, push it to the side and get out the door, but I've started taking it out. But one thing, when I did that, I moved the garbage cans closer to the door. But
well, my plan having sons is I assigned one of them, your job is the trash. Just take it out and take it, and that didn't work out either.
I can see where that would be an issue. Well, at least they're out of the house.
They're good boys. They're good boys. I tease them all the time.
Davina was telling me, talking about when the kids, now that they are gone, there's you and her. And that's a change in relationships, isn't it? It really is, because then she starts paying more attention to you. So you've got to do better.
I've got to be on my toes. That's right.
Yeah. Before you could sort of slip back because she's fooling with the kids.
Yep.
But once the kids are gone, I found myself like that. I had to do better. Because the focus was back on me. I could just sort of hide. For several years I could hide. But now, it's like having a good state job where nobody finds you. You're in the basement. Okay. But anyway, it's good, man. I'm glad you're doing good again. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you inviting me down. We've known each other for so many years, and I appreciate it.
It's good. You keep up the good work. I hope you do it for 30 more years. And you'll be 80 then. I guess that'll be okay.
I might stop a little before that.
But
the longest running sheriff was Bill Osborne at 28 years, and he was 24. Someone else 20 years. They said, well, you can do 28 years. I don't think it'd be no 28 years as sheriff. That's a big stretch. Bill was 24 years.
Man alive, I remember.
That's a big stretch.
I sure do. I do remember him for a long time. And that's a big job, and things have changed a lot since then.
It has,
man.
Just the technology, the laws, the things that everything's changed.
Yeah, and you're like a corporate manager now too. Not only law enforcement, but you got a lot of other stuff you got to pay attention to.
Right.
Well, okay. Appreciate Brian Hieatt being here with me today. He's a friend, and I know that you guys have enjoyed it. He's just there's 1,000 other questions, but I want to be easy with him because I want to have him back some other time. And when he comes back, we'll get down to the nitty-gritty on a lot of stuff. We got a lot of things that I study a lot about law enforcement. I really study on those things, okay? And we're by family and I argue about it. We argue about these First Amendment auditors, okay? We do a lot, you know, but and my wife says, I can't believe they're so stupid. She'll talk about them guys with the camera, and my mom does the same thing, but we go round and round. We study on it. All right. Well, I appreciate you watching Just From The Shed. God bless you, and thank you so much for watching. Brian's been here with me, and hope you've enjoyed it, and I'm sure that you have.